This video will have a look at how do we use the quadratic formula to be able to solve a quadratic equation. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and we divide that by 2a. Using this quadratic formula, you are able to work out two different values of x. These values of x will be the solution to the quadratic equation that we are trying to solve. So to be able to use the quadratic formula, what you need is to be able to identify your a, b, and c values from the original equation. So remember, the standard form of a quadratic equation is a x squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. You apply that standard form to the equation in your question to be able to identify what your a, b, and c values are. Your a value is going to be the value in front of the x squared. Your b value is going to be the value in front of x. And then your c is going to be the standalone value without a x variable. So once you have identified what those values are, you substitute it into the quadratic formula to work out your two values of x. So let's have a look at an example of how we can apply the quadratic formula to be able to solve a quadratic equation. So in the example, we want to solve the equation 2x squared minus 7x plus 4 is equal to 0. So the first step in being able to use the quadratic formula is to identify what my a, b, and c values are going to be. So my a value is going to be in front of the x squared. So my a value is equal to 2. My b value is going to be in front of the x. So that is going to be negative 7. Remembering we need to look at the sign in front to be able to identify whether the number is going to be a positive or a negative. And my c value is going to be the standalone number, which is equal to 4. After identifying the a, b, and c values, the next step will be to write the formula. So x is going to equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And that is going to be divided by 2a. So now I can substitute in my values, and x is going to equal negative b, so that's going to be negative and then negative 7, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 7 squared, minus 4 times a, so 4 times 2 times c, so 4 times 2 times 4, and that is going to be divided by 2 times a, so 2 times 2. So going ahead and simplifying some of that equation, x is going to equal to negative 7 is going to become a positive 7. So positive 7 plus or minus, then using a calculator, the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4 is equal to 17. So it's going to become plus or minus the square root of 17 and then divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. So x is going to equal to 7 plus or minus the square root of 17 divided by 4. So my next step now is to split that into two separate equations. So I'm going to do that by using my plus negative. So the first equation is going to be x is equal to 7 plus the square root of 17 divided by 4. Or the second equation, which is x is equal to 7 minus the square root of 17 divided by 4. So as you can see, we've split it. One becomes a plus the square root of 17. The other becomes a minus the square root of 17. So using a calculator to finish off my calculations, x is going to equal to either 2.78 or x is going to equal to 0.72. So the two solutions to the equation 2x squared minus 7x plus 4 is equal to 0 is going to be x is equal to 2.78 or x is equal to 0.72. That's an example of how we can use the quadratic formula to be able to solve a quadratic equation.